Welcome to Voice Bootcamp, a global name in unified communication. Hello, my name is Faisal Khan, Cisco Voice Instructor at Voice Bootcamp. In this particular video, I'm going to discuss the comprehensive model of call flow. This type of functional deployment model can be provided by organization with a mechanism to route and transfer call across the VoIP network, and also to provide IVR service, queuing calls that is being routed to a selected agent. The most common scenario for this type of functional deployment is for organization that requires 100% pure IP-based contact center. Caller can be provided with IVR service initially and then be requested to transfer the for queuing treatment if the agents are not available. And if the agent becomes available, then they can be transferred to a selected agent. Now, upon request, caller can also be transferred between the agents if they need to. In this type of environment, ICM and CVP can pass call data between these endpoints, providing a reporting for all calls. Now, the functional deployment model provides capability of a standalone voice XML server, call director functional deployment model, plus the ability to route and queue the call to an agent. So caller can access the CVP in this scenario via the local, long distance, or toll-free number or even SIP trunk into the ingress gateway. Callers can also access the VoIP CVP from the VoIP endpoint as well. To deploy this type of model, it requires ingress gateway, voice gateway, CVP call server, operational console, and ICM enterprise. Optionally, the following devices are required: VXML server, egress gateway, ASR TTS, third-party media server, either WebSphere or Tomcat, CSS 11000 or ACE 4700 series devices. In addition to that, presence, SIP proxy, and CVP reporting can be deployed. A typical call flow in this type of environment is a call will arrive from the service provider or caller via the PSTN into the ingress gateway. As a call arrives at the ingress gateway, ingress gateway will then send a SIP invite message to the proxy server, in which forward the request to the CVP call SIP service, which is part of the call server solution. CVP SIP service will then send a route request to the ICM via the CVP ICM service and VRU peripheral gateway, which is step number, for example, 3. Now, once the ICM receives a request, it will then execute a routing script based on the number that the user dialed and other criteria. Once the routing script, in this scenario, if you take a look at the step number 4, where the send to VRU components being executed, ICM routing script will utilize the send to VRU node to return a label to the SIP service. Now, label in this scenario could be an extension or a number to access certain devices. This label will then be returned to the SIP service, and a call will be sent to the voice XML gateway. CVP SIP service will then send an invite message to the voice XML gateway using the SIP proxy server, which then translate the DN to the IP address of the voice XML gateway. So when the send to VRU, basically the return label that is being sent is actually the DN or extension, the directory number that you need to dial to access the voice XML gateway. Now, voice XML gateway will then match that incoming call against the VoIP dial pair and use a HTTP method to initiate a request to the CVP IVR server based on the label that was sent by the ICM. So in this scenario, what's happening in step number 6, the call comes back to the voice XML gateway. Voice XML gateway will send a HTTP request in step number 7 into the IVR services. The IVR service then can send a route request to the ICM via step number 8 for further processing. Now, which will then allow ICM to re-enter the previously started script. Now, again, when the step number 8, the call comes back to ICM, the script that was executed on step number 3 and 4, the same script will be used to connect that step number 8 session. So therefore, basically what's happening is when the call comes back to the ICM, same existing script that is already running will be executed again, entered again. In that scenario, step number 9 will be invoked, which this says run external script. The run external script basically tells the ICM that run that script on the CVP side of it. So ICM script using the run script node to interact the IVR service about the desired call treatment. If the call treatment requires a complex IVR service, the service control can be redirected to CVP VXML server. Upon completion of the VXML server application, the request by the caller will be then transferred to a live agent. Now, if it is a simple, or if the initial call treatment is simple, then only few prompts with a free prompt, then the IVR service can utilize the voice XML micro application on the voice XML gateway. So it does not require the VXML server. Now, in this scenario, when a caller requests to be transferred to a live agent, the ICM script queues the call for appropriate skills group. Now, and then send a run VRU scripts message back to the IVR service to have the queue treatment. When an agent becomes available, ICM requests the CVP server IVR service to transfer the call to the selected agent by returning the label of the agent. IVR service will then request a SIP service to transfer the call to the dial number of the selected agent. SIP service will then send a SIP message to the proxy. Proxy will then send a message to the call manager SIP trunk, and then IP address with the associated DN number of the agent. Once the SIP call manager accepts the incoming SIP trunk call, it will then route the call to the available agent, which is in this scenario step number 25. Once the agent answers the call, RTP session between the ingress gateway and the agent will be established. So this is the overall overview of the comprehensive call flow model with CVP.